I just wanted to make this quick video to talk about itemizations in League of Legends. I don't think I need to say this, but yeah, itemizations have been a bit little effed up recently, and by recently I mean for a while now. First it was Eclipse, now it's Ravenous Hydra, and yeah. Now I want to start with something that might not be as obvious. I don't think Jackstraw is overpowered. Um, not only do the win rates not really show that this item is that overpowered, since most win rates are about the same as they were before this item was overpowered. Um, but even though the build is a little strong, I think most of the strength comes from the high AD rather than the item, since most tanks cannot build this item. And I don't mean just like it's bad on them. I mean, like, a lot of them just cannot build this item. And I think it's both the fact that it's kind of bad on tanks, since it feels much more like a bruiser item than it is a tank item. But even if you ignore that, I still think that this item feels a little underpowered on tanks. So this is one of the big problems right now. I think AD items are too high, and you can easily slot in another item instead of an AD item, and you don't lose much. Normally I'd be okay with hybrid builds, since I actually really like hybrid builds, and I know Riot does as well. But when the problem becomes that hybrid builds are too easy to make, I mean, when you don't lose much, then it's a problem. If you build a high AD item, you should lose survivability. If you slot in a survivability item, you should be losing a little bit of AD. The fact you can do both without losing too much is kind of insane. Which is why I wanted to make this video. Just quick video to talk about some changes. First, and that is a very obvious change, AD. Yeah, AD items need to be nerfed. I think pretty much every high AD item should be nerfed, and I think the highest you should go is about 60 AD. 65 max. Some items will probably need a little bit of compensation for the fact that they are losing so much AD, but for the most part, I really don't think so. And next change, and this is to mythics, to bruiser mythics. Bruisers still don't have a good mythic that isn't a Sheen item. Seriously, Goredrinker and Holebreaker are complete trash. The only champions that build them are cheese builds. And let's be honest, nobody likes Garen. And that may be a little bit offensive, but seriously, no one likes Garen. So yeah, please change Holebreaker. I think one of the possible changes they could do is either remove the slow and either give it damage or maybe some kind of armor reduction. Kind of similar to something they experimented on PvE a while ago when the item was first going through a rework. Pretty simple changes though. Goredrinker, I think the cooldown could go higher, and the heal, instead of being instant, could be over time. Well, also a little bit increased or something along those lines. Maybe instant gives you a shield, but then the healing comes up over time. That could also be another change. And I also think Black Cleaver should be a mythic item. Let's be honest here. I still think this item should have been a mythic item. I still don't really get a good reason why this shouldn't, since I really do think it should be a mythic item, and it would allow champions like Urgot to build an actually good mythic items that is also like a bruiser and AD item. Now to assassin items. I think assassin items need to have, in general, their AD reduced while having a little bit of increased lethality. And most assassins, or if not all assassins, should have some form of lethality scaling. This means that like lethality champions, like assassins, don't lose much power, so they should be about the same power as they are building the item. But everyone else have like a less gold efficient item that is more focused on lethality than AD. This really would help balance champions that build like assassin items purely for the AD and don't really care about the actual lethality, which is obviously bad. I don't think I really need to say it, but yeah, this is not something that should be rewarded in this game. Next up is tank items. Tank items, I think, once again, go for something similar, where mythic items should have reduced ability haste, if not near zero ability haste, like 5, 10 ability haste, maybe even 0 ability haste. But all legendary tank items should have some ability haste, at least 10, if not 15 or 20, while maybe some tanks would need some adjustment to their abilities, their base ability cooldown around the early game, but then increased around the late game. So they don't lose power in the early game, but don't gain too much power from having legendary items in the late game. Once again, they should be kept around the same power with abilities, like around the same cooldowns, while having this. So once again, champions that aren't tanks lose that ability haste early when building the items, so they're less rewarded for it, but tanks, because they have lower cooldown reductions, don't lose too much. So maybe around like not starting abilities, but like mid game, and obviously it depends on the champion and which ability. So not all abilities need to be changed. And so yeah, this would require a lot of changes, but in the long term, if they could actually balance it out, so these champions, tanks and like assassins, don't lose too much power, then they gain an item that, okay, is less gold efficient, but is better on them specifically. Because once again, tanks obviously gain the tankiness, while assassins gain that lethality scaling. While any other champion that tries to build it doesn't get, like, gets a much less gold efficient item. Now, this would reduce hybrid building, but not ruin it completely. Hybrid building was still possible, even back in the days where, back like AD items weren't that high AD. So it is still a possibility, but it's going to be much harder to swap in, and you would actually get punished for doing it. So this would incentivizes more creativity with the build, rather than, well, not being punished for building an item that isn't your main, like, class. And this should mostly solve the problem in the long term. Obviously, just once in a while, there probably will pop a cheese build or something like that would make this a little overpowered or something like that. But it's a once in a while, and it'll be like a one-off thing. The Jack Show changes, or technically the Hydra changes, made a lot of cheese builds possible. A lot of stuff popped up. A lot of items got too good. A lot of champions. This was like a big thing. This wasn't a one-off. If they would make this change, it would be more one-offs. It would be more, you just gotta fix it like one patch and it should be good. Maybe a number is too high in one champion. Stuff like that. Obviously, that's in the long run. But I still think this is a good change. I think this is way better system than the system that is currently in the game. And I hope people agree too. I mean, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.